All right, gamers. Should be able to see. We're gonna do a ranking system for all of the enemies and bosses in Resident Evil. Period. Some of them, like we did this before, and I think it's the same list. Some of these are duplicates, or not duplicates, but like they don't have duplicates. So, like for example, this time a little bit. I feel like I'm yelling over it. So, for example, like the very first thing is zombies, and zombies is kind of a weird one because zombies is like one of the most common enemies in the whole franchise. And it's really hard to just say, oh, well, zombies in RE 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, zombies in RE 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3 remake, and 6 are all just the same. But you can sort of say, like, how good have zombies been, like, over the years, you know what I mean? And if I had to assign zombies a rating across the board, that's including how they were in RE1, how they were in RE2, how they were in RE3. I would say almost every iteration of zombies has some dumb bullshit that they can do. They're like mostly fine, especially when there's one. But over the years, especially in the classic games, they have been used in some of the most annoying and kind of toxic ways. Like there's a lot of like trap zombies are almost exclusively used as like a simple trap. It's like, oh, you stepped on a prone guy, you went into a room and one zombie bit you, now 12 get to bite you. It's like, they're kind of middle of the road enemies, which is great because that's how fodder enemies kind of should be. You know what I mean? Fodder enemies should be pretty weak. They should be like not a super big deal, especially if there's only one, but only dangerous in the context of groups of them. In RE2 Classic and at times in RE2 Remake, they're on hard mode, they're just awful enemies because in RE2 Classic, even though there are ways to like outmaneuver them, it's not like the game doesn't give you anything you can do, but they just feel very oppressive on harder difficulties because classic RE2 zombies are just fucking way too tanky, bro. It's not like they just have a lot of HP, they also don't stun. It's like RE2 Classic hard mode is like the original Voss. They're like, well, you start with a shitty gun and you gotta shoot zombies for 30 minutes to kill one and they won't stun. Crows are F tier. Crows are pretty bad. So we're gonna take zombies. I don't think it's worth discussing that harshly or at length. Zombies are not that complicated, so I'm gonna put them right in the middle. RE6 zombies are okay but have problems. RE1 through 3 zombies are okay but have problems. Crimson Head. Crimson Head's easy because Crimson Head's only from one game, and Crimson Heads are not inherently bad enemies. Like we're gonna use this tier list to judge them basically on how acceptable they are in the gameplay where they're presented in vanilla. I don't think it's fair to judge it off like some dipshit who put like 40 dogs in a room, you know what I mean, in a mod. So I'm gonna judge it just based off of how good they are for vanilla and how they're used. In Crimson Heads, at least in maybe not most, but some of the circumstances where you are likely to see them if you didn't kill somebody or you didn't get rid of somebody, are pretty decent. They're not terrible. It's much better to prevent them, and I will say that the gameplay for preventing them was unfortunate because in classic Resident Evil, the shotgun is like admittedly kind of like zero-sum game powerful. Like it's really easy for you to just walk up to any zombie and get a free decap if you're even remotely close to them. The only example where that's not really true is RE1 Classic, where you have to be sort of close, but you don't even have to aim at their heads in RE1 Classic. If you're just like pretty close to them and you aim neutral and shoot them, their friggin' heads will fall off. It's crazy. Shotgun's busted. But RE1 Remake was like, well, shotgun's too strong, so we're going to remove the free decap, and we're going to make it so that if you don't decapitate enemies, now there's something extra to do with it. So I think maybe they had Crimson Heads as like an afterthought off the back of being like, we need to nerf the shotgun, or it could have gone the other way. But regardless, their existence in 1R actually muddies down the gameplay a little bit. Like, they're cool ideas for an enemy. You know, they're like super zombies with claws and stuff like that. And this is something that I think a lot of people wanted out of RE2 Classic. Showed that they had a cut enemy where it was a zombie that would like transform kind of into a half licker. And so this is sort of like a realized version of that, but I don't know. Their gameplay's not great. It's not that interesting. They're kind of fast and you're kind of not. So it's like if you played the game on release, these guys, you was a non-option to let them exist. Like you had to do the lighter thing to get rid of them, or you had to fight them. And since you can't decapitate them for free, fighting them is like super dangerous, especially using non-alternate controls. This is not a tank control designed enemy, in my opinion. Not to say you can't deal with the Crimson King a little bit easier, which I see he's over here, but that's not even the point. Crimson King is mandatory, and his boss room is pretty good for them, where you could just kind of run to safety and then put him in a circle. But these guys, gotta put him in the C for Crimson tier. Because, yeah, they're not, like, awful enemies. Not to say they have no counterplay, but just the existence of them really adds a lot of, like, boring kind of chores and legwork to 1R. So I would say they're kind of in the stinker tier of enemy. Dogs, F. I'm kidding. Dogs are like D for dog. Dogs in almost every single game are bad. There's like a few examples where they're okay, but in both RE2 and 3, they have a behavior where they can like, actually I think this exists in 1 also. They have a behavior where they can just pretend like you didn't hit them in the middle of an attack and they'll finish it anyways. So like they'll jump to hit you and you'll go pow and they'll fall down. And as soon as they fall down, they'll reset to neutral and then start running after you. It's kind of BS. B for bombs, that's right. But yeah, dogs in the classic games have like some flaws that make them pretty annoying. I'd say probably the best iteration they've ever had was RE3 dogs. And that's only because RE3 dogs have like a soft side to their hitbox when they jump at you, where as long as you're aware of it, you can kind of hug one side of them and very often avoid their leap attack, which is their only attack. So, but yeah, it's, I don't know, dude. The remake engine dogs are the fucking worst shit on the planet, though. Like, RE6 kind of has dogs. RE5 kind of has dogs. They're not called dogs anymore. They're like just dog-like enemies, but if we had to assign it to just regular zombie dogs from RE1, 2, and 3, they're fucking trash, bro. They're terrible. The remake ones are bad also. They're all just bad. Crows, F tier. Crows are not interesting. Crows are literally just there as like a way to hit you for free and be inconvenient. Like earlier when we left that room in 0, crows in 1R are like kind of nice because they don't bother you. Crows in 1 OG are kind of nice because they don't bother you. And crows in 2, for the most part, will not bother you. 3, similarly, you can kind of just get away from them, but they're like, they're the worst kind of enemy. And I know if you guys know me, you know what I think the worst kind of enemy is. What is F for, gamers? Can anyone tell me? Does anyone know what F is for? What is the crow? Come on, I know you guys know this one. This is going to be on the test. I hope you've been taking notes. There are no good dog enemies in the RE universe? That's right. What is F for, gamers? What's the worst kind of enemy, zero sum, they've never made a good one in their fucking lives? Flying enemies. That's right, gamers. A flying enemy. Good job, Kren. Yeah, flying enemies are fucking terrible. They're so bad, dude. It's crazy how much of a pain in the ass they are. And because the majority of like RE1, 2, and 3, where they appear, has them like kind of, you know, already in midair and flying around, and you have like the crappiest auto aim ever. That's so dog shit. Anyway, what's the spiders? Also F tier. Spiders were a mistake. I think that they were like, we can't just have red and green herbs. Like, that's too boring. We need another one. And they're like, all right, what should we do? And they're like, oh, what if some enemies poisoned you? And it's like, oh, you goddamn motherfucker, kick him out of the office. But yeah, poison. If you play a lot of Resident Evil, you probably know that, you know, being poisoned, if you're on any sort of like run that isn't a casual one, is usually a death sentence. It means the run is over and you have to start over. If you're doing a speed run, it's over. If you're doing a no damage run, it's over. If you're trying to beat the game without getting poisoned, it's over. But yeah, they're pretty terrible. In most iterations of Resident Evil, spiders don't really even have good counterplay. Funny enough, in 0, it's not bad. 0 spiders are decent, but the other games, 1R is also not particularly good for them. I don't know. They're not the worst, but they're not great either. All right, so here, I'm assuming this is Neptune. So Neptune is like, he's kind of a puzzle boss. You don't really fight him necessarily. There's a moment where you can sort of outplay him in 1R. And you sort of a little bit outplay him in RE1, but he's like a pretty boring enemy. So he's, I don't know, he's not that sophisticated. There's not really you could fail. Like the first time you go through his room, okay, I'll give credit where it's due. The first time you go through his room in RE1 Remake has got to be one of the, especially if you're like me and the deep ocean freaks you out, it's got to be one of the most uncomfortable times you're running through a room in a video game, because you just saw him eat Richard, most likely, if you're, you know, doing the good ending or whatever. And usually I feel like people are like, maybe if they didn't get him the first time, they'll get him the second time. But you see him eat Richard and you're like, oh fuck, oh shit, oh fuck. The little shits, the little sharks are harassing you. And it's like, you know that the big one is in the room and the water's high enough that he can get to you. So it's a very uncomfortable feeling. But his actual gameplay is like non-existent. It doesn't excuse the fact that he can basically just walk away from you. So I'm going to give him B for kind of boring. Or B for buoy, you know, because he's in the water. Do enemies that climb ceilings count as flying? Only the gorillas from RE 1.5, because they are functionally flying enemies while they're on the roof and they're bad. All right, so now we got hunters. Hunters is tricky. 1 Remake hunters, terrible. 0 hunters, not very good either. RE3 hunters, not very good. RE1 hunters, very good. Very, very good. RE1 hunters is probably the most like fair version of them. What list is this? We're doing a tier list of all the enemies. Hang on. This will make it a little easier. I'll put the important stuff in caps so you guys know what's up. How are you doing, Dastardly? But yeah, hunters, in like 4 out of 5 cases where they exist in a Resident Evil game, are pretty bad. So I'm going to go ahead and put them in the D for Dastardly category. All right, so here, this is a Chimera. Chimeras look fucking absolutely terrifying. That's like nightmare fuel right there, dude. But yeah, Chimeras are actually not bad enemies in RE1 Classic. They're a little bit spooky, and they do have like one of the most annoying, like, kind of like catches to them. In classic Resident Evil, if you kill one of these and you like leave the room right away, they won't die. You have to like really wait a second for them to bleed out and be like all the way dead. That aspect of them is pretty annoying, but RE1 Remake and RE1 Classic Chimeras are both very fair. I would say 1 Classic ones are a little bit better, because 1 Remake ones are kind of like, their movement's a little weird sometimes, but this is something that Capcom has always struggled with. Even in RE1, they struggled with this a little bit. But their movement is usually like ruined a bit by the pathing of the room. So like the most clear example of this you've probably seen if you played a lot of Resident Evil is in RE3. Sometimes you'll see zombies go the wrong way, but it's like hardly noticeable if you're just running from them or whatever. But with Nemesis, when he goes the wrong way, it's super noticeable, because he'll be chasing you and he'll just like get sucked off the wrong way for a second. Like he'll go, like it literally looks like he gets like captured and he goes the wrong way. But yeah, it's really, really noticeable when he just gets launched in another direction, because then he continues running, he corrects himself, and then he runs and punches you. So it's like extremely easy to notice when it happens with them. But it's been happening with enemies for a really long time, and 1 Remake Chimeras at times also run into this problem. So it's like, I would say these guys, while being pretty good, still have to deal with that. I'm going to go ahead and make them the first A tier enemy, because RE1 Classic Chimeras don't have this issue. All right, Crimson King. He's better than like your classic Crimson Head setup. And you're given lots of resources to deal with him. So it's like, unless you've elected to shoot a lot of those into like the floor, you should have more than enough to fight him. But I would say he's probably also in the B tier. He's not a gimmick boss like Neptune is, but I don't know. He's kind of like he's kind of like a simple zombie boss. He's fast, and if you have alternate controls, he's really simple. But if you're fighting him with tank controls, he becomes extremely dangerous, and movement and getting around him becomes super uncomfortable. Because his grab, RE1 Remake grab from zombies, is like really weird sometimes. The properties of it are not what you might expect. That said, he's not like a super sophisticated enemy. If you try and fight him with alternate controls, he's really straightforward. You can just circle faster around him than he can circle around you. and you just poke him down with the knife until he dies. Yon is really going to be tricky to place because RE1 Classic Yon is a good enemy. RE1 Remake Yon is a bad enemy. So I'm going to have to put him probably in the middle. I think RE1 Remake Yon suffers from the same problem that a few enemies do in 1R, where it's like their hitbox is kind of phantom. Like it doesn't even look like they hit you, but they still hit you. And even worse than that is when you get hit in RE1 Remake, you get like stunned for a second, and it's like not a second, it's like a while. How about RE6 Yon? He's not actually Yon. He's a different enemy. He's probably in this list. All right, so he's going to go in the B tier because he would be C tier for 1 Remake, but A tier for RE1 Classic. This is Plant 42. Plant 42 is not a particularly good enemy in either game. I feel like he's not unfair. He's just like kind of an annoying environment puzzle, and if you bring the right resources, you can more or less skip him. But he also can like kind of be a dirty cheater a little bit. He's a weird one. There are ways to fight him that are pretty advanced, but he's not like super interesting to fight in RE1. He's also coded kind of badly in RE1. There's like kind of just a lot of randomness to the behavior of his tentacles in RE1 Classic, and he will constantly body block himself while you're trying to shoot him with most, like if you try and shoot him with the shotgun, all of your shotgun shells can hit his tentacles instead of him, and you'll end up wasting a lot of them. It's kind of shitty. But yeah, he is going to go here in the C or can't be asked. Who's this? Black Tiger? Black Tiger is a spider, so he goes down here. Anything poisonous is F tier. Who's this? Lisa Trevor? Okay, Lisa Trevor is actually, she's kind of like the first Tyrant styled enemy, like the first Pursuer that they made in like the newer engine games. And for having to follow up Nemesis, she's pretty good. You know what I mean? That's like a really hard act to follow, but she's pretty good. She's kind of like she kind of matches the pace of the player a little bit. Like she's not faster than you, but she's like kind of getting there. Like she walks like a zombie with really long strides. And a lot of her attacks are kind of RE1 Remake, I think, is the real problem. It's not necessarily just her, because other enemies have attacks like this too. But a lot of her attacks just like linger for really long, and so you have to really know kind of when her turn is over and it's safe to run past. It's the same with RE0 zombies, actually. Yeah, I would say Lisa Trevor, for having to follow the act of Nemesis and for being kind of like a somewhat sophisticated enemy, she is going to go in the A tier. I'd say she is probably a little bit better than Chimera. Tyrant is the literal first Tyrant, that's why he's called that. In RE1 Classic and in RE1 Remake, he is actually, he's not hard. Like if you bring bullets or guns or whatever, he's really easy to just not interact with at all. He doesn't chase you when he's in the lab, and when he's on the helipad, you can sort of just outmaneuver everything he does. Like it's interesting that it's this way, because in RE1 Classic, there's like a really common strategy of just kind of staying in like his peripheral and letting him attack around you whenever his like frustration meter runs out. Because yeah, once it does, he does like a wind up and then he chases and does a swipe at you. But in RE1 Remake, he does sort of the same thing, but instead of going around him like the whole time, you just wait for him to do that, and then you cross to the side he's not attacking from. So it's like, it's still kind of similar, but I can really appreciate how Capcom identified his counterplay from the original and kept it sort of the same, but made it a bit more interesting. So I'm going to also put Tyrant in the A tier. All right, Leechman, I think is what this is. That's what it looks like. Leechman, the last time we did this list, I think he was in the F tier. But Leechman, surprisingly, is actually a very sophisticated enemy. There's ways to avoid his long-range attacks. There's ways to avoid him from picking certain attacks that don't really have good counterplay when you're close to him. And he's actually very easy to loop. It's the wind-up dodgeable from him. You talking about from Tyrant? Yeah, you can avoid it. It's very precise, and it's better if you're not holding a weapon so that your character moves Like your character's hitbox is a bit thinner, but it's avoidable. But yeah, Leechman surprisingly is pretty good, and he also has like one of the more interesting setups where it's like if you know he's there, you get rewarded because you get a bunch of free hits on him during his transformation. When you won't see him this way every time, but usually when you see him, he's like a clone of Spencer or a clone of Marcus. You can get a lot of free hits in on him while he's transforming into a regular Leechman or whatever. So I would actually go so far as to say that compared to a lot of other enemies, especially in RE0, Leechman is our first S tier enemy. I know a lot of people would be very surprised to hear that, and I think if you were to take him out of the context which he's used in vanilla, like if you tried to put 2 Leechmen in a room, be fucking awful. But again, used in the context of how they're used in vanilla, I think he's pretty good. Because you only ever see him with like a heads up first, or you see him in a certain situation where it's like you kind of have to deal with him right away, but it's never in such a position where it's unfair. Like he doesn't just start super far away and immediately able to attack you. He usually starts kind of close if he's going to be that way, or it'll be set up in a way where you should see him coming. Plague Crawlers, also pretty good enemies. They're kind of like Chimera, where it's like if you know the deal, like what their rules are, you could sort of just outplay them the whole time. They don't have the same magic with Chimera where it's like killing one takes a second or whatever. I will say though, Chimera are used kind of badly in Zero sometimes. There's a few rooms where there's groups of them. In the one room where there's 4, there's a very easy way to deal with them. But then there's a couple of other rooms where there's usually just like 2. And even though some of those rooms have great solutions, some of them do not. So I'm going to say that while Plague Crawlers are very decent enemies, they're not so good that they're like worthy of like being called like a really good one. If they're by themselves though, they're pretty fair. So I would say they get to go to the top of B tier. Eliminators, F. All right, so the Lurker, this guy is like a frog monster you see in Zero. He doesn't really like show up very often, and when he does show up, it's pretty late in the game, and it's a little bit random whether he appears. Which the way that you can deal with him is kind of silly. It's the same tech that you use to like get through rooms a little bit quicker using the 2-character system. The frogs. So turns out the frogs actually have like one of the simplest counterplays, which is like you just switch your other character the moment you see them and leave the room, and then it'll teleport you both to safety, and after they've appeared once, they'll go away. So they're a really kind of gimmicky puzzle style enemy. That said, if it's your first playthrough and you don't know they're going to be there, they're basically a free game over. So I'm going to put them down here with hunters and dogs. I think they're pretty annoying gimmick enemies, if nothing else. However, I don't care to say enough to get their name right. Yeah. Okay. So Scorpion, you guys might be surprised by this too. Scorpion is going to go in the S for Scorpion tier. Now, Scorpion, even though they freak me out in real life, in a video game, he's pretty good. Scorpion has... People don't usually see it because they just watch him die to like the stun lock method. But Scorpion actually has like very good counterplay for a lot of his stuff. And the way his fight is structured is kind of like, is like a tug of war a little bit. You need to make sure that when he takes his turn, he doesn't push you all the way to the wall, and you have ample opportunity to try and push him to the other end of the room because it's a very long room. And a lot of his attacks kind of rely on good spacing and knowing which side of the room to be on. Because some of his attacks have follow-ups with his stinger, so they kind of deny access to the middle of the room, and you have to know kind of which side to be on and whether it's okay to be in the middle or not. So he's, for an intro boss, he's actually very good. What's this, Centurion? The caterpillar or whatever? He's F tier. He's kind of boring. He's not a bad boss. Like, he's not hard or anything. Actually, we'll see for crappy. He's not a bad boss necessarily. He's just really boring. Apparently he's just a timer, and you can just stand in one spot and shoot him completely for free. Bat, F. Okay, so Bat probably doesn't require much of an explanation. If you guys have watched anybody play RE0, you know what he does. He's a flying enemy. He's very cheap. If you beat him up a little bit, he summons a fuckload of other flying enemies, which are also very cheap. He's literally an ammo check. If you didn't bring 5 flame rounds to fight this guy, you're just fucked probably. Okay, Proto Tyrant, very, very good enemy. He's like a more interesting version of regular Tyrant. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put him at the top of A tier. He's definitely more interesting than these 3. Proto-Tyrant has like a lot of really simple ways to fight him. So he's still like an honest interpretation of regular Tyrant, but he's more like, what's the word? He's more like, how can I phrase this? He's more interactive. Like there's a lot of like cool stuff that you can do when you're fighting him that isn't just like loop one attack. You know what I mean? He's got some neat counterplay to him. Is this Queen Leech? My present opinion of Queen Leech is that she is pretty bad. Queen Leech phase 1, it takes like a really long time. And Queen Leech phase 2 is mostly made worse on the port. If you were to play the GameCube version of this game, it wouldn't be so bad because there's sort of like protections in place to make the acid spray less ridiculous. Mostly the fact that you're in 30 FPS and it's forced that way on like what would work on a CRT TV. Standard definition, believe it or not, it lends some advantages to older games, especially because it's like that's how they were designed. You know what I mean? But it's fucking 2025, baby. So F tier. All right, Lickers. Oh, this is hard. Lickers in RE2 are one of the best enemies. Even with like 20 of them in a room, it's like you could still outplay all 20 of them. There's like a very specific way to outplay them as long as you don't wake them up. They have like a very particular stealth mini game that you can do with just the knife or like a weak weapon as long as it doesn't stun them when you get hit. Or sorry, when they get hit. So I would say that classic Lickers. Oh, you know what? There's two. So this is meant to be super Lickers, but they're identical. So this is going to be classic Lickers, and this is going to be remake Lickers. So classic Lickers, triple S enemy. They're an advanced, like they're really sophisticated. The timing to do their minigame is like really exact. And you can use the weakest thing in the game to fight them very comfortably. And it's all skill. It's all just like watching and being patient and knowing when it's your turn. And you also have to manage their position because whenever they set up and go back down, they move forward a little bit. All right, so Lickers in remake, I'm going to have to put down here with Lurkers. So yeah, they're kind of in the D tier. It's not like you can't deal with them. If you're playing at 120 FPS, you can like literally non-options shred them with a knife. They're just not going to be able to get out of it and they're going to die probably. Which I feel like is honestly the best way to fight them. Because dealing with them any other way, they have a lot of really cheap things they can do. For one, they have a move where they jump backwards and then leap forwards, and that move is like a grab box the size of a refrigerator. So if they decide to do that, there's a really strong chance that you'll get hit. How about RE5 Lickers? Ooh, yeah. They can stay up here with this one. RE5 Lickers, I don't think are quite... Actually, you know what? We'll put him in S. Because, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. RE5 is Lickers, too. RE5 Lickers are okay, but they're also not too good. Actually, we get a third. I tell you what, he gets to go here because RE5 Lickers are better than RE2R Lickers, but not by very much. So they get one upgrade. They get to be better than Crimson Heads. I'll give them that. They're better than Crimson Heads. They're actually kind of bad for the same reasons the Crimson Heads are bad, but it's pretty close. So, oh, you know what? Hold on. Oh, well, that's, I guess, a bit of an oversight. I was just about to say, do they have, like, RE2 Remake enemies separated? But yeah, they do, because this is an Ivy, and this is Remake Mr. X, and that's normal Mr. X. All right, in that case, Ivies in RE2 Classic, this might surprise you, I think are an S tier enemy. They're very, like, weird in particular. Like, you need to play a really exact spacing minigame with them. Because if you're too close, they'll grab you, which you can buffer out of their grab without having been grabbed previously. So that makes them pretty fair as like a damage enemy, but you need to like be close enough that they can't grab you, but far enough that they'll try and swing at you. And if you go too far, they'll spit at you. So they're really, really slow and they're very predictable. There's like a pretty long windup for spit, and it's always going to be in the direction they're facing. So they give you a lot of visual information to know kind of how to deal with them. And as long as there's one, you can kind of just loop them. Not to mention they're very easy to stun. Even on the hardest difficulty, a regular shotgun shell from like across the room will stun them. So, well, not completely across. If you roll a low damage hit, it won't sometimes, but if you have the combat shotgun, for example, it always will. But yeah, they're actually very good enemies, despite the fact they're poison enemies. I just think that's, I don't know. Some of them actually aren't even poisonous in RE2 Classic. It's like specific ones are. I think it's actually just the red ones, which is surprising. You'd think the green ones would be. G Mutant from RE2 Classic. All right, I have to be impartial here. The babies in his fight are fucking awful, but as a boss, pretty good. He's pretty good. If it's just him and not his little babies, like if you know how to remove his little babies through the fight, he's actually a pretty good enemy. He has one of the more unique setups in the early games, which is that you can part break him. In RE1 Classic, they were sort of experimenting with this with Plant 42, since Plant 42 has parts that can take damage and then fall off of him. That's the same deal with G Mutant. In RE2, if you chop G Mutant's arm while he's not doing something, like while he's in neutral, his arm will fall off, he'll stun for a really long time, and you can just kind of wail on him during it. There is a bit of a counterattack during this. While he's doing it, he'll spit acid around everywhere, but if you're using a gun in particular, it's like you can just bully him out. And you don't even have to knife his arm. You can shoot it too. It's just you have to hit his arm, and doing it with the knife is pretty easy. But yeah, he's a very good enemy, minus his little babies. You know what? It's his little babies in the picture. I can't in good faith put him up here. He's gonna go here because he's a good enemy, but his little shitheads make it awful. Alligator is pretty much a cutscene, but he's a fun cutscene, so I'm gonna put him in C for cutscene. What am I looking at? Oh, is this the Moth? I think it is the Moth. Moth is pretty dog shit, so he's gonna go in D for dog shit. Moth is like sort of predictable. Like he has a wind up when he's gonna try and hit you. But he's just, I don't know. There's only one of him. He's not super interesting. He only has one attack, and that one attack is like kind of cheap. You technically see them again in Outbreak, but in Outbreak they're really annoying because at one point they kidnap you for free and teleport you away from where you're trying to go. Okay. RE2 Classic Mr. X, last time he kind of got dragged through the mud. He got sort of an unfair assessment of how good or bad he is. CV Moths, yeah, this is good where it is. They're D tier. But yeah, the classic RE2 Mr. X is actually a very good enemy. He has, well, okay, he's not such a good enemy. He is surprisingly fair, is a way to put it, because similar to RE3 Classic Nemesis, he is like a really unintuitive way that you're supposed to deal with them. So if you've ever played mods of Resident Evil 2, if you've ever seen mods played, you might know that he has a behavior for vanilla where once you drop below 50 HP, he will only use a very slowed down version of his overhead punch. Unless he starts it and you try to run past him before his turn is up, and he'll punch you like doing the wrist check move instead. But if you're healthy, if you're over 50 HP, he will walk slowly towards you once you get close to him, and then he'll do like a wrist check move. And the wrist check move is like he's holding out a refrigerator kind of on one side, but it's arced in such a way where when he approaches you, if you are sideways, you can just turn and start to run away from him, and he will pick the side that you are facing away from when he goes to do the swipe. I don't know why it works that way, but it does. And so that's like the easiest way to avoid him. And once he's done that swipe, once he does the wrist check, he doesn't have it for like 2 seconds. So you can run straight up to him and he'll do the slow overhead move with both hands, like the double axe handle. So coincidentally, Mr. X is actually a very fair enemy, and you don't need to know how far you are from him. As long as you can see him, you can always wait out 2.5 footsteps, and then he's close enough for you to do the dodge. So he is actually probably the first triple S tier. Well, actually, you know what? I don't want to give him that much credit. He still is a little bit cheap, especially when you find him in a group, and some of the solutions to where he shows up don't really ever encourage you to learn this. The only one where that's the case is when you find him in the B scenario on the 3rd floor of the RPD. So I would say he's definitely an S tier enemy, but I don't think he gets triple S status. Here we go. Okay, classic G2, pretty good enemy. He's not complicated, and he does have a weird thing in his behavior where, so classic Resident Evil 2 G2, if you do enough damage to him where he drops to 500 HP, you don't have to fight him anymore. He will die on his own after about 2 minutes. So you just wait around and he will eventually die himself. He won't die, but he has he has 2 phases. He's got his first phase and then he's got his dying phase. And when he's in dying phase, his health drops to 100 and you just have to deplete his HP from there. But when he's in phase 1, if you drop him to 500 HP, he'll start regenerating HP as you fight him. So you can still like burst him really quickly and get him to go to dying phase, but if you're trying to be conscientious about ammo, which you don't really need to in vanilla Resident Evil, but you could do it if you were playing like a mod or something, you can wait for his HP to just run out, which pretty good. Honestly, that's like a good fail safe. So that if you run out of ammo, but at least you have like the knife or something, you can fight him while he's slow and pathetic. So I will give him A tier treatment. I don't know if he's necessarily better than Proto Tyrant, but he's a very good boss and he's very simple. He's not super hard to understand. He also has kind of a mercy mechanic, like Mr. X does. If you're under 50 HP, he'll be nice to you. He'll do a really slow move where he like winds up his slash and does it after like a second, or he'll like check out his hand. It's kind of like a taunt that he does, but he does it pretty often. And when he picks it, you get to avoid him for free. G Mutants in the remake. You know what? This one might be a hot take, but gotta put him in the S tier. Gotta say G Mutants in the remake. Gotta put him. Come on, they're good. I'll explain. So, G Mutant in the remake, even though he's like a big, bulky, annoying poison style enemy, again, we're only judging them based off how they are in vanilla, not in like the randomizer mods and shit. Because they're fucking terrible in those contexts. People are always putting them in fucking places that they do not fit. And it's usually just like, I don't know, when you could have just put a box there to block the player's path, it's like you put bullshit instead. And half the time they're like gyrating in one spot and they can't pick that spot because they're too big for it. And so even shooting them sometimes can just be a hassle. But yeah, if we're looking at them in vanilla, their G Mutant baby move is super predictable. They tell you like 5 minutes ahead of time they're doing it. It's really, really easy to dodge. It's not directionally preferential, so like you can go left or right to dodge it. They're like grab attack where they dive and come after you. If they do it, it's kind of your fault. It means you're standing too far from them. And if they decide to do it and you're standing too far still, there's a way to stop them. You can shoot them with something heavy in their eye and it'll knock them out of it. It doesn't even necessarily have to be their eye. With enough firepower, you can hit them anywhere. But basically, it's not super expensive to knock them out of it. And they have, I don't know, just generally good hitbox data. The only move they have that's not very good is their overhead slam. And that's because it has kind of the same properties that G3 has in Remake, where it's like his jump slam has like a big arcing hit that goes past it. So it's like it reaches out sort of in a cone. And if you're standing in front of him in a cone, it'll hit you. So you just have to go to the side. But yeah, let's see. Remake Ivies, I think, are also S tier. I love their redesign. I think they look awesome. They look more realistically like what you might find if there was just like a person who's been overwhelmed by like plant DNA and it's like eating them and shit. Like they look crazy. And they also have very honest counterplay. It's like, it's a game where you are shooting stuff in third person and you have a cursor and have to aim. Obviously they needed to upgrade Ivies where they weren't just like a movement puzzle anymore. And so now they've made it where there's like a really fair puzzle and just timing out getting past them if you shoot them in a bobble. So it's like basically a free way to bypass their stun, but sorry, a free way to bypass their grab, but they've made their grab much more deadly. So they're like a pretty interesting elite enemy type in that way. All right, so Mr. X in the remake, triple S tier. He's perfect. He has like some flaws with his movement sometimes, but he is a much better realized version of this version of Mr. X. Because classic Mr. X, when you're in fine condition and he's allowed to do his overhead, you can actually run straight through him and get past him. Coincidentally, if you've watched people play RE2 Remake, he's exactly the same. Whenever he does his like wind up punch, like if you're aiming at him, you can just run directly through his model and it lets you past him. So in that and many other ways, they really honor the original Mr. X by making him this way. And you can shoot his hat off, which is pretty funny. Pro Gamer, welcome in. Yeah, dude, we're doing a tier list and then we're going to do another game here in a bit. All right, who else we got? All right, G2. from the remake. Mm. Wait, is this supposed to be G3? Who is this? It looks like G2. Where's the other... Dude, he's like missing. They're missing like a bunch of RE2R enemies. All right, well, I guess if it's just going to be like G2, 3, and 4, probably S. I would say, yeah, probably up here. I think that G Birkin and all of his formats in RE2 Remake is a really well-designed boss. He's not super hard, but if you don't know exactly how he works, it's super easy to get stalemated by him. It's really easy for him to bully you, especially G2. I feel like G2 is one of the more complicated fights because you have to really know how to lead him so that he ends up on the side of the room you want him to be. And he ends up on the side of the room you want him to be while you're leaving that side of the room. So you need to really know how to like control and bait him ahead of time for the way that he's used in vanilla. All right. So this is one of the most annoying enemies in RE3. Although they're not bad, they are poisonous, but they're not bad. There's a unique counterplay you can do that only works with these guys. I don't think it works with the regular ones. But basically, you can let them chase after you. They do this sort of like wiggle dance move where they run at you. And if you shoot them during it, you'll always get a knockdown. So while they do have kind of some cheap behaviors, like both Draindemos and Brainsucker do this, but they can like jump through the air. And when they jump, they can go over the wall boundaries in a room. So like if you're like, oh, he's behind this wall, there's no way he could jump to me. Yeah, he can. Is where the boundaries are kind of low for certain walls, they just fucking jump clear over them. And so it's like they'll still land on you. But they have generally pretty good counterplay. And as long as you let them follow you, like you kind of lead them, they won't do the jump. So you have pretty good means to avoid it much of the time. That said, this guy's going to go at the bottom of A tier, and this guy's going to go here. Because he's... I don't know. There are some rooms where you find them where even in vanilla, they're pretty bad. Actually, B for bad. I think these guys are... They have cool counterplay that's like a little bit interesting, but it falls apart whenever there's more than one. In almost every situation you see them in, even though you can isolate them and fight them easily, there's usually more than one. In corner, yeah, dude, they're rooftop jumpers. All right. So Gamma is specifically saying, like, how do you feel about RE3 Hunters? RE3 Hunters, pretty fucking bad. They technically have 3 moves, but they all start with the same animation, which is like a huge sin in game design. So whenever a hunter is going to attack in RE3, this is how it works. When they run up to you, they'll prime their attack by like kind of hunching down. And if you come close, they'll swipe at you. If you stay far, they'll jump. But if they decide that you don't quite meet the criteria for either of those, or if they feel like it, they will cancel that and then continue to chase you. And then they'll prime it again once it's off cooldown, which is almost instantly. So basically they can fake out their jump and then just run up and smack you. It's kind of dog shit. But they are sort of cool looking, and yeah, I guess that's it. They also are very easy to deal with in vanilla. Like there's no reason for you to fight a hunter directly in vanilla, like ever. They're only really shit in like mods. But because they're just kind of bad, generally speaking, like fighting them with weaker options is not impossible, but it's like it's just too slow and not usually very good. Like the way they're used in the mercenaries is not very good either, because it's kind of just shitty for Nikolai. It's not like you can't deal with it, but you have to get a little bit lucky with HP, because the way HP works in RE3 Classic is it's a range, and it's like a pretty giant range. Like sometimes you can get a hunter with like 50 HP, and other times they'll have like 130. It's a very big difference, which that's actually just a flaw with Resident Evil 3, but this is specific to RE3, so they're bad. Gravedigger. A for awesome. So in the city, he's kind of C for city, because he's just like a boring wall spider that you shoot anytime he shows up. But when you fight him in the graveyard, he's got like a lot of cool stuff you can do with him. Like you can space him out correctly to kind of control where he goes. There's lots of areas in the room where you can guarantee he'll approach from one side, and it's like safe to outmaneuver him from there. He also has like this long lunging grab or bite move, that you can just dodge pretty reliably as long as you watch his mouth very closely. And he's got like a dope instant kill, so he's an A tier enemy. All right, Nemesis doesn't need an explanation. Straight at the top of the list. I've gushed about Nemesis for hours and hours and hours on this channel. You guys know that I like him, and you probably know why. Nemesis has easily he is the apex predator of Resident Evil Classic 1 through 3. He is like the most sophisticated enemy. His biggest problem is that he's very fast. He's faster than you, and he sometimes suffers from bad pathing, which again is a problem that exists in basically every Resident Evil game. But in RE3, it's super noticeable with him because some of the rooms where there's really, really noticeable awful pathing, you have to fight him in there. So like, for example, probably the most like nefarious boss fight location for him is City Hall when you're leaving the city. Because yeah, that room has like, so I'm not going to go too into detail about it because I could make a whole video just talking about Nemesis, but he's kind of like, he's in a weird way, he's kind of like Bella in Village, or I guess I should say Bella's like him, where it's like part of his mini game is managing his run and managing his cooldown so that you let him grab in time that he doesn't chase you, because he has a frustration meter, and his frustration meter, when it runs out, he'll chase you, or he'll switch modes basically, and if you let him switch modes, he can punch you out of it as if he's already been running the whole time, because it starts the timer from the moment he was walking, not from the moment he starts running. I realize it's gonna take too long to explain all this, but basically Nemesis is like, he's super sophisticated, and he is like a very advanced version of like red light, green light that involves you playing the spacing on his room perfectly. So you have to know exactly how far he is from you, and you have to space him just the right distance so that whenever it's his turn again, he's where you want him to be. We done beef for bullshit yet for anyone? No, I don't think so. What is this? Chimeras? Oh, this is Drain Deimos in the remake. B for bad. They're not that different from classic Drain Deimos in a weird way. They still have the ankle slap. They still are kind of cheap when there's more than one. They're very easy to deal with if you have like a lot of artillery, which in vanilla for Resident Evil 3 Remake, with any amount of artillery, you should be fine. Or just with the amount of artillery you're given, you're more than likely to be fine. But they're just not that great. They're you only see them once in the whole game, and it's kind of a positive because they're not very interesting to interact with. Or I should say they're just like really kind of cheesy. They have lots of ways to like easily sneak up on you, and whenever they do the aerial version of their grab, the position that you have to be at is kind of particular for you to be able to dodge it. Otherwise, you'll just get a quick step, and you'll probably get grabbed at a quick step. Ooh, Palehead zombies, F. You guys probably don't need much of an explanation here. Palehead zombies have like a weak spot mechanic where if their face is exposed like this, you can shoot it, or you can shoot the back of their head. But if they're like aware of you, they'll close their face and you have to shoot their body. Also, parasite zombies are two enemies technically. So there's the zombie, which is the thing piloting around or carrying around, and then there's this piece of shit, which is the pilot. Stunlock, yeah, they can also stunlock you really easily on Inferno. You can literally just get repeat stabbed until you're dead. These guys are fucking dog shit. They're really terrible. Okay, Gammas in the remake, A tier. Gammas are actually, even though they look like weird rotisserie chickens that got left in the freezer for too long, they're like pretty good enemies. They have kind of a really annoying counterplay to them, or they have something annoying that they do to counter you, which is if you try to run past them without first engaging something else that they do, they'll jump backwards, and you can dodge the jump backwards. But for one, the camera will not really be in a good spot to watch them so that you can dodge it on time. You sort of just have to know the timing. And if they do hit you, they're likely to chain stun you into another one. So in that regard, they're kind of cheap, but it's just so that you're forced to interact with them. And interact with them is super easy. their like grab dodge box can be a little bit weird sometimes. It mostly works, but you don't even have to do that. You can either A, shoot them with a flame grenade, or B, just like run backwards for a second. The movement in RE3 Remake is the best movement they've done in an RE Engine game. So you are very much at liberty to just outplay these poor bastards. All right, Paleheads. See, that's tricky because it's asking me about Paleheads after it's shown an RE3 Remake enemy, so I'm inclined to think that they mean for RE3 Remake, which RE3 Remake Paleheads are pretty fucking awful. D for dog shit. Paleheads, especially when they're like in a group, they can absolutely frame trap you very easily. Normally, you can sort of avoid them. Outplaying them is not always an option, and so it gets to be very, very tricky. Oh, ads are occurring? Thank God. I really need to grab something to drink and I need to go to the bathroom. So I'm going to wait for this ad to play out, guys. You have your tunes. You have each other. Here's a redeem on me. I'm going to let Bella out as well. So I will be right back, gamers. Don't go anywhere.
Human actions are destroying habitats, decimating our entire ecosystem and disrupting the circle of life. And with the rise in drought cases, it is up to us to be guardians of our own natural world, save our wild species, and provide a home.
Oh, you made that other one. Get that one. We'll play with it.
I don't know where it went.
Yeah, good luck finding it. It shot a hole through my roof. Hey, guess what it bounced off of?
I gotta go. And he did it.
Look, I know that you're staring at it. Hey, I mean, I gotta drain it 3 times a day so my brain can think good. We're hoping that's temporary.
Okay, I'm back. Oh, perfect timing. Okay. So, Resident Evil 3 Remake Nemesis. It's kind of unfair to just put him once, because he's got, like, similar to classic Resident Evil Nemesis, he's got, like, a lot of forms. So you got Brawler Nemesis, you got Rocket Nemesis, you got fucking Pit Boss Nemesis, you got Anime Nemesis, you got, what's it called? Arcade Nemesis. There's just a bunch. You got Nemesis Stew. There's like a million of them. So between Flamethrower, Brawler, Flamethrower, Brawler, Rocket, and his other forms, where he's Dog, and then he's like Dog with Tentacle, he's like really variable. However, I will give credit where it's due. most of his iterations are pretty decent. I think the only ones that really suffer are Flamethrower Nemesis, and at time, well, I don't know. He is probably we'll put him at the bottom of A tier. He's not like fucking awful or anything. Well, A for awful. He's a little awful. Sometimes he's very cheap. Sometimes the stuff that he does is super unfair. Like he has a move where he stomps and then just grabs and kills you. And if he does that move, it's like you kind of like need to predict that he's going to do it, because you need to dodge the grab or you need to dodge the stun, or else the grab is likely to hit you. And he can just elect to do it once he's past phase 2. Because unlike the classic Resident Evil, you have to down him more than once to kill him. He's got like, he's more like, instead of 50% HP, he's 66 and 33% HP is when he'll fall down. So he's like a blatantly worse version of classic Nemesis. Even if moments give him some credit, he's like fucking really ass on most difficulties. So I'm gonna put him kind of at the top, because some of him is really good. Like surprisingly, his dog form is pretty good. The clock tower fight Nemesis is probably one of the more fair ones, but his brawler form and all this other stuff, the reason why they let you just fucking nuke his ass with the Magnum or with grenades is because even they know he's kind of trash. He has like valid counterplay and there's ways to deal with him, but similar to classic Nemesis, they're very like obscure. It's like you wouldn't think that's how you're meant to deal with him, but that's how you deal with him. So what am I looking at here? Are these dead aim enemies? All right, I think they're all going to go down here as D for dead aim, because I still haven't played that game. So I don't remember what they do. What the fuck is this? Dude, that straight up looks like a giant Bill O'Reilly head in the ocean carrying a farm. What the fuck am I looking at right now? What? Is anyone else confused by this? What is this? What the fuck am I F for what the fuck am I looking at? Oh, this looks like bees? Oh, these are outbreak enemies. Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. Wow, there's a lot of outbreak enemies. Okay. So for outbreak enemies, we've got bees, F for flying. This looks like the Leech Man. The Leech Man is like, he's pretty annoying, honestly. There's a status effect that's only in Outbreak called Bleed. And technically it's sort of the same idea as Dino Crisis's Bleed, except when you're bleeding in Outbreak, it puts you in like danger status. And so it's like fucking super annoying. And this guy is like the main purveyor of Bleed. Not to mention the punishment for not knowing exactly what route you're meant to be taking is you'll most likely get pelted by this guy, or you'll have to like lure him somewhere where he's not going to be in your way. So as much as there is credit to be due for him being an interesting puzzle enemy, the puzzle being how to avoid him completely, he kind of has the same problem as Crimson Heads, where it's like the existence of him is to make it so that you know you're not really meant to deal with him. Like he's there to force you to do something a certain way so that you won't have to fight him. That's the puzzle, is not having to fight him. So I'm going to put him in C for kind of crappy. He's not very good. Cat Monster, C for cat. These guys are not super unfair, but because they kind of have the remake problem, where it's like if they hit you, your character will be like, oh, and they'll fall down, and it takes them like 50 minutes to get up, and by the time they're up, they're just getting it again. So they can be pretty fucking obnoxious. They can also jump over certain terrain, and they're just a big pain in the ass. Toucans, this is a very rare circumstance where a flying enemy is going to get a good score, but they're not super interesting. However, in Outbreak, you have like a turret mode that you can do where you're, well, not a turret, but it's more like an active turret, I guess. You're like walking while aiming, and while you're aiming, your character will just perfectly track anything that's close to him. So, or them. And it makes it really easy for you to deal with flying enemies. So in the one specific situation, which is crazy, it's this one, Outbreak is actually the one game that did a good flying enemy interaction. So flying enemies, not actually terrible in Outbreak. B for not bad. What the fuck is this? What is this thing? Can anyone tell what this is? Oh wait, is this the fleas? No, that's not the fleas. Where are the fleas? They're definitely in here. I can't tell. That's the liquor thing. That's, oh, there's the fleas. So then, yeah, what is this? Anybody? I don't recognize what this enemy is. Anyway, so here's the forest guy from File 2. He is like kind of the same as the Mothman, where it's like your whole objective is kind of just to not have to deal with him, but he's pretty fair. He like kind of sucks. He like has very predictable windups to his attacks. He has the same rules as a human player, where like when he walks in the room for the first moment, he has to walk and he can't like do anything. So he's kind of abusable. So we'll put him in the bottom of A tier, A for abusable. I don't know what this is. I'm going to put it down here just so it's out of the way. I think this is, oh, this is when you fight G-Mutant in Outbreak. He actually has like a really cool gimmick, as well as being like reasonably easy to avoid. He's not quite as simple as classic G2, but he's pretty close. However, he also has a worse version of G-Mutant babies. So I'm going to put him over here in the C tier. C for can't be asked. He's probably, yeah, no, he belongs here. This is fine. Oh, this guy's kind of cool. Oh, hang on one second. All right, so this guy actually is kind of interesting. So it's a little bit like the Scorpion fight, where there's like a very long path. And instead of it being like, oh, you have to push him back, it's you kind of have to beat him before you run out of space. So at the start of the fight, you know, the game illustrates to you that it's like a very long path, so you have plenty of time. But you have to space properly so that depending on what he's doing, you won't just get knocked over and pummeled. Because he's got a move where like he hunches down really low, and so they want you to walk up to him. But walking up to him is kind of dangerous because he'll shoot out like 3 lines through the floor, and so you need to just avoid where those are going to be. They have like a little bit of a wind up to them, so you should be able to just move back when he starts, because while he's like that, he won't chase you, and so you can just wait for that move to be over and then start fighting him again. But he's like pretty interesting. I wouldn't say he's like amazing or anything. And he can be a little bit cheap, even though I would attribute that mostly to just Outbreak being kind of jank, but I'll put him at the top of B tier. The Liquor Lady is kind of a cheater, but she's topless, so B for boobs. All right. Ooh, Tyrant. What's his name? Thanatos. He's weird. He's got like some cool designs. Like he's got like a really obvious like tantrum move that he does. Like it's clear when he's about to do it. And if you stand by him, he chops your head off. He is kind of like a hunter kill. Not this version of him, but a version of him you fight a little bit later. So he's pretty cool, but at the same time, he's I don't know. He's otherwise kind of like really boring to fight. Like you sort of just keep your distance from him. He's not super interesting. So that to be fair, I would attribute that to like most Outbreak enemies, period. Like there are sort of ways you can outplay enemies in Outbreak, but I don't know if it's like paying or what, but sometimes those things just outright fail. Cat, get the hell off my desk. You are going to fall and hurt yourself. No, sir. We'll put him probably like here. I'd say he's more interesting. Yeah, he's like G-Mutant tier. He's kind of G-Mutant tier, where it's like he has bad behaviors, but he's mostly fine. Elephant is like, he's B for boring. He's not like super hard to fight, but he's kind of like, I don't know, he's just not that interesting. You spend most of the time that you interact with him avoiding him. He might even be top of C tier. Like he's fun. He's definitely like a great spectacle. Like giant animal bosses generally just end up in the C tier because I don't know. They're neat in concept, bad in execution. Flea, F for Flea. Fleas suck. They're really annoying. They have like a bouncy move they do at you that's just a fucking... It's kind of like this charge move that Mr. X does in RE Survivor, where it's like sometimes it's just over for you if they decided to do it. Oh, I think this is the final boss of RE2. Sorry, Outbreak File 2, which he is actually pretty cool. I'll put him up here. He's maybe not as good as Lisa Trevor, but he's pretty good. For a final boss, he's pretty good. Usually Capcom gets like a bit carried away and makes final bosses kind of shitty, but that one's not bad. Speaking of shitty final bosses, it looks like we've arrived at Code Veronica. So Bandersnatch, F. Let's see. Ooh, Punch Tyrant. Punch Tyrant is... He's a little bit like some of the other tyrants where what you're meant to do with him is super obscure, but I think this one is probably the most punishing. Especially when you fight him on the plane, you have to deal with him a very particular way. You can fight him with like the knife and just outplay him, but if you fuck up once, you are dead now. He's just gonna chain stun you completely to death. So in that regard, I would say he's kind of D for dog shit. He's got like cool stuff you can do with him when you fight him outside the plane. Like you can duck under his swipe whenever he's walking down that hallway in CVX, or where you fight him in front of the facility. But it's not that crazy, and it's like kind of the only cool thing you can do with him that isn't outplaying him on the plane. But outplaying him on the plane is like not only not necessary in vanilla, but it's like it's super like exceedingly precise. You can't afford to fuck it up at all, or if he hits you, you're just gonna get chain stunned to death probably. And if he doesn't chain stun you to death, he's at least gonna hit you like 2 or 3 times. He's really annoying. This is... Oh, it's Nosferatu. A rank. No, S rank. Nosferatu is a really weird boss, but he is a really, really good boss. And he has one of the most interesting means of like area denial. People think like, oh, if you just like wail on him or whatever, if you're in the room for too long, he'll use poison everywhere. But he doesn't do poison everywhere unless you like move away from him and let him start picking stuff in neutral. If you stay really close to Nosferatu, he's kind of like Leechman, where it's like you can bait his grab, and out of his grab, you get a free attack. And so it's like you can, by being brave and identifying his animations properly, you can really, really quickly end his fight. And he's super easy to loop. He's also, if you guys didn't know about this, fun trivia, he's also the very first example where they had it in a Resident Evil game where you would switch from your normal perspective to like a first person perspective shooting a gun. So they had RE Survivor, I think, before CVX, but RE Survivor was completely first person with cutscenes. This was third fixed camera gameplay that switched to first person for you to shoot a gun, which is the first time I think they ever did that. Albinoid? C for crappy. Albinoid sort of runs into the same problem a lot of these guys do, where they're a little bit gimmicky, and you don't even necessarily have to fight them. You can just avoid them, but they're not super interesting. I'm just serious working the enemies if they ever make CVX. Yeah, a lot of them are down here. A lot of them are not very good. Is that Steve? Who is this? What am I looking at here? I think that's Steve. I'm getting aggressive Steve vibes from this. Can anyone else tell? Is this Steve? I think it's Steve. It's a CVX enemy, so I assume it's him. C for Shrek, but you spell it with a C. Oh, Alexia. So Alexia, when you fight her as a human, is like kind of interesting, and she has sort of like some like neat counterplays. It's like you can just fucking nuke her immediately. It's holding an axe. How can you tell? This is so muddled down. It looks like a guy's face, and he's got like a red badge. I can't really see the rest. Darkside Chronicles is pretty cool. Oh, I didn't know that. That's neat. But yeah, Final Alexia, F for Final. She is probably the worst boss in the whole franchise. Like, Bat is pretty terrible, but Bat is also over instantly if you do it right. You just have to you just have to execute the very start of Bat's fight correctly, which is you hit him once and then you keep him stunned with flame grenades. And by the time you finish shooting 5 of them, he'll be dead. And he has the same amount of HP every time. So in that regard, he's better. She gets to go all the fucking way to the bottom because she is just so goddamn terrible. Her HP is random, so you'll have to spend either a long time or a very short amount of time in the room with her. And she has like helpers, and this is one of the first examples where they've had like a boss that shoots projectiles, and this is the first time they've had like an entire room boss. She's kind of like a worse version of like a RE3 Nemesis from the like final RE3 remake Nemesis prototype. Because classic RE3 Nemesis is like, he's kind of like a better, more realized version of G4 from RE2 Classic, but her final form is like a shitty, worse prototype of Final Nemesis from RE3 Remake, where it's like she just does a bunch of bullshit, she shoots acid everywhere, she can spawn shitty little helpers to delay you, and then get it set up where you have to fight them so she can hit you. She's very cheap. How many people we got? A lot. Oh my god. I didn't think they had so many fucking enemies. Oh, here we go. You know what? I think... Oh, that's no good. They don't have their remake counterparts in this. Oh, that's bad. Well, if we're just talking about classic RE4 Ganado, they're great. They're really, really good. I think classic RE4 Ganado are triple S tier enemies. The only things they do that are like kind of unfair is specifically like two behaviors. One is they can act out of being decapitated or transforming. So like say a Ganado is running towards you. If you shoot them in the head or if you shoot them in the body and they transform into a Plaga, they can sometimes preserve that animation and ignore the fact that you killed them until you hit them again. So if you use like a slow weapon, like the shotgun or the rifle, this can be really detrimental because they can run straight up to you still. When they reach you, they'll start backing up slowly because their move's off cooldown, but their head isn't grown yet, so they can't make a move. And then they'll use their first turn as a Plaga to grow a blade and hit you right away. So they can do something, they can do some pretty cheap stuff, but for the most part, they're really fair. Makami tech is what most people refer to that phenomenon as, but other than that, they're really predictable. They're super exploitable. They're great crowd enemies. Like they're probably the best crowd enemies that they've ever produced. If you shoot one Ganado and he bumps into another Ganado, that Ganado will get staggered. And if his stagger hits a different Ganado, that Ganado will get staggered. So you can shoot a shotgun at one Ganado and effectively stun like 12 if they're all like kind of dominoed behind that guy. So in that way, you could make the argument that's like too easy, but in a game that uses like big like throngs of enemies, dude, it's like it's not a bad thing to have it be where crowd control is a very available option. So classic Chainsaw Man, he's not bad. I don't want to give you that impression. He's not bad. He's just boring. He's really boring. He's one of the more uninteresting enemies. I think he's like a huge success story in the remake because classic Salvador was only really dangerous in a group, but he really wasn't even that dangerous in a group because it's so easy to knock him down. But he's basically just a Ganado with a cooler weapon. And the counterplay to him is very basic. You just let him swing at you and then hit him in the face. But he's still not a bad enemy. So I will put him at the top of C for Chainsaw. So he's not bad necessarily. He doesn't belong down here. He's just not very interesting. He only has one move. Well, I'm sorry, technically he has three, but two of them are like nearly identical and only one of them is dangerous, and that's fast swipe. Because he can do a really quick version of his forward swipe, which he's keen to do if you run like very close to him, but I don't know, it's you avoid it like his other two moves. Like they're all basically the same move, so not a big deal. Colmillo. D for dog. Colmillo are like kind of ass. There is a way, to, like an obviously unintended way to avoid them, but fighting them the normal way, they're fucking awful. They kind of input read you a little bit so that if you're like trying to shoot at them, like if you're shooting at one and there's two, when you start shooting the first one, the other one is going to attack you. They're really obnoxious. They're especially terrible when there's a group of them. And even though in vanilla it's like fairly easy to always just like throw a flame grenade or something as a means of removing them right away, they're still pretty bad. If you try and place any restrictions, there's basically just another terrible dog enemy. Oh, you know what? Here's an idea. So, oh, but no, then do go. We're going to skip RE4 Remake in this list. Because here's the thing, right? Some enemies are like pretty even with how good they are in the remake versus the classic. Like Remake Ganado are not as good as classic Ganado, but they're still pretty good. They're mostly good. It's similar to classic Ganado, which are also just mostly good. They have some flaws, but they're okay. But if we had to give Remake Ganado something, I would say they are probably also up here in the Triple S. Hello? Hello, baby. Ben? They're probably also in the Triple S tier. They've got a lot of like really cool behaviors. They don't have the Mikami tech anymore in the remake, which is pretty nice. So yeah, they're like a fucking enormous pain in the ass. With basically just that one tech by itself in several points in the game. It's like really obnoxious when they get access to it. But overall, they're pretty good. Garrador, S tier. Easy S tier. He's like a true stealth enemy in vanilla, or in classic Resident Evil 4. There's ways that you can sort of loop him, the same as like with Lickers. Actually, I would say he's probably also Triple S tier. Garrador is a very good enemy. He can't hit other enemies in the classic game, but he's like, he really is like not super complicated, and he rewards precision and like animation knowledge. So if you really know what he's gonna do, it's so easy to fight him. And it's really easy to outspace and outplay him. But you have to know his rules, and if you don't, he's just gonna shred the fuck out of you. Because when you're facing him and you get hit, you'll fall to the left, and his combo is specifically designed so that if you are facing him and get hit, if you're facing away from him and get hit, he'll slash the fuck out of you. Because it's basically like a punishment for trying to run away from him when you're not supposed to yet. Can't hate on Gary. Gary's really good. Gary does great team killing. So we're doing this from the context of not in modded gameplay. Garrador is sort of good about that in the remake, but he doesn't actually have friendly fire in the original. So he's kind of like just an obstacle you have to work around. But because he's pretty fair, it's not that hard to work around him, even when there's more than one. It's dangerous, but fair. What is this? Novistadors. So I think Novistador gets a lot of hate from RE4 Classic because of the PC port. A lot of the stuff they're able to do in the PC version of RE4 Classic is because of FPS. It's FPS stuff. Like, for example, you'll hear people complain that in the Hive, they can like go through the floor and just attack you through the floor, which they can. But that's because the FPS fucks it up where they can get inside the wall for some reason. So they're not necessarily a bad enemy per se. They're just bugged. So B for bugs. What is this? Armadora? Armadora are fucking dope as hell. They're really good. They're great in both games. Classic Armadora have a really interesting counterplay where like you can actually juggle multiples of them as long as you can make yourself like kind of behind them at the right time when their turnaround animation is going off. Because they have a really long turnaround animation in RE4 Classic. This actually is true behavior for almost every enemy. Dugo is this way, Armadora is this way, Regenerators are this way, Garrador is this way. They all have like something exploitable where if you're right behind them, you can bait them into turning around and then take your turn back, kind of, as a free advantage. Or you can more or less force them to pick a move, which frees you up to do something. But yeah, Armadora, A rank. Easy A rank. These guys are freaking great. Soldier Ganado are pretty much just Ganado, but I'll just put them here. JJ, pretty good design. Pretty good, actually. He's a little cheap because if he's far away, like you need to use something to stun him or you need to like wait him out. Like there's one example in RE4 Classic where this happens. There's like one far away and you kind of need to deal with him from a distance, but If you are just killing him, it's like he's pretty easy to deal with. And if you're not killing him, you're avoiding him, he becomes a little more awkward to deal with. But he's still a pretty good enemy, and he's got a freaking Gatling gun. He's badass. So, B for badass. All right, so regenerators. In classic Resident Evil, regenerators are like really fair. They're almost fair to like a fault. They're pretty easy to fight. Especially because once you know about the knife tech with them, you can literally just knock them over and knife them until they die. Most people are under the impression that you can't kill regenerators unless you destroy their plaga. But if you've watched a lot of Resident Evil 4 gameplay, or watch like speedrunners or things like that, you might know that's not true. Because yeah, you can just attack them. They take damage, just very little. And since the knife is infinite in classic RE4, it's pretty easy to just knife them to death since they can't get up from it. So yeah, I would say while regenerators are kind of simple, they're still like very formidable. And there are moments where if you're fighting more than one, they can be pretty complicated. But overall, I think the best thing about them is the first playthrough experience where they're super scary. So I would say they get to go up here in the A tier. Maidens in the classic RE4 are pretty much the same as regenerator, but setting up that tech where you like knife them for free is very hard. It's very, very precise to do without getting hit by them. So I would say while they're still pretty good, they're not as good as just regular regenerators, which this is actually true in the remake also. Most classic enemies are better than they are in the remake with few exceptions. Like I would say like Novi's and Armadora are clearly better in the remake, but I don't know. That's for not exactly the reasons you might expect. Del Lago in classic Resident Evil is kind of a gimmick boss. Most of the gimmick bosses end up kind of in the C or B tier because they're not too crazy. He's like a really basic gimmick boss. He's not hard. But yeah, we're going to give him C tier because he's in the C. El Gigante. El Gigante in the first game is really weird. So the way El Gigante works in the first game, his body is like an armor health bar. So while he's like running around doing stuff and he's active, when you shoot him, you're hitting his body and you're hitting his armor health bar. So once you deplete it, he goes, oh, and he falls down and then his plaga is exposed. His plaga is his actual health bar. If you shoot his body with a missile, it'll still kill him. But if you shoot it with anything else, it only affects his armor. And once his armor is depleted, he falls down, you can attack him for a second, and then he gets all of that armor back. So it feels kind of bad to waste like ammunition on him, but you can literally kill him with the unupgraded shotgun in one cycle, vanilla, if you know exactly where to aim. He is a pretty well put together boss. I would still say he's better than the remake version of himself. So I'm going to put El Gigante up here in the A tier. He's not that good. Like, I don't think he's like anything to really write home about. He might even be top of B tier, actually. Who's this? Mendez? It's a tough one. So Mendez in the original is kind of easy. He's like a little bit too exploitable at times. He also, you can skip his fight by just bringing some flame grenades and knowing to use the barrel properly in his phase 2. But his phase 2 is like the opposite of his phase 1, where it's like instead of him being too easy, he's like kind of cheap, and he has a move he can do where he basically switches elevations and instantly attacks. So you need to like move if you're in the same part of the, like if you're center, left, or right, you need to not be in the same spot as him, because you need him to land and then move to one side to catch you. So he's really awkward to deal with, but overall, he's not a terrible boss, so I'm going to put him up here in the B tier. He's probably better than like Yawn or something. He's maybe on par with Crimson Head King, because he's not like unfair or anything. Like there's ways to deal with him. He just feels kind of bad to fight, and the way they want you to fight him is kind of a bad gimmick, I think. Verdugo from classic Resident Evil 4, triple S tier. He is my second favorite boss of all time, because he largely mirrors a lot of design aspects that Nemesis has. So with Nemesis, you need to like favor one side of him depending on which attack he's doing, and it's kind of up to you to know which attacks he has available. Verdugo is the same way, which funny enough, they also share the turnaround setup. where if you get perfectly behind Nemesis, he'll always turn around. If you get perfectly behind Verdugo, he will also always turn around. So you can actually loop them in a very simple way that lets you not necessarily totally control the fight in Nemesis's case, but you can actually totally control the fight with Verdugo. If you don't want to fight Dugo, you can sort of keep him occupied while you wait for something else, like the elevator, to happen. You can run behind him, he'll turn around. You just need to be patient and not move ahead of time, because when he goes to turn towards you, his camera tracks like up to a certain moment, and then it'll stop tracking, and that's when you need to go behind him again. But yeah, he has like lots of ways that you can fight him, forfeiting the nitrous. A lot of people think of him as like a QTE house, but he couldn't be further. That couldn't be further from the truth. He's literally like designed as like they're baiting you to use the QTEs as like an easy way out. Because 2 of his moves will actually just still hit you if you are mashing QTE and do it too early. Because if you duck when he does like spin slash, or if you duck when he does triple tail right away, you're gonna get hit by the end of triple tail. Or when he comes out of spin slash, you'll just be stood up for the first time, for the first moment, and he'll just use jab on you, which is his close range move. So he's got like really smart designs. I would say he is, if not better than Nemesis, he's very close. The only thing that's not so good about him is like Capcom does this a lot, where they sort of like encourage you to think a certain way when that's not the case. Like a good example of this is with Heisenberg. Heisenberg, they want you to think you need the cannon to keep space on him, but you don't need to keep space on him. You can avoid everything he does with just movement. Verdugo is the same way. They want you to think you have to use the QTEs and the nitrous, but you don't have to. What about Double Gigante? Double Gigante in Vanilla is like, or sorry, in RE4 Classic is like kind of uninteresting. I think Double Gigante is a bad fight in the remake. Well, mostly just because Armor Giant is bad, but that's because Armor Giant uses Phase 2 El Gigante AI. So like when you fight him in the village, when his Plaga is exposed, his behavior is that of Phase 2 Gigante. And whenever you fight Armor Giant, even when his Plaga is not exposed, he is always behaving like Phase 2 Gigante, which is dog shit. Phase 2 Gigante is horrible. Here's Salazar. Classic Salazar, he's kind of F for failure. He's like the top of F, though. He's like still a sort of interesting boss, but you can tell that they didn't expect people would just like hang out right by the entrance and bully him for free. Most of the time, people just use a rocket to skip him entirely because he's not a difficult boss, but he is a time-consuming one. Because you can see this part of his head is like the U3 or whatever from Classic RE4 that gets transformed when he jumps in with him. And yeah, it's like you kind of just shoot the eyeball and then bully Salazar until he dies. He's not very interesting. Okay, U3 in Classic Resident Evil 4 kind of has some QTE memes. I'm going to judge him based not just on his fight, but also the tanker event where you have to run through the tankers and you're timed. He is pretty good as like a normal fight. Like you can even knife him pretty comfortably. But once he gets into Phase 2, he sort of activates Dirty Cheater mode. So I'm not going to put him in D, but I am going to put him in C for cheater because he's kind of cheap, or C for cheap. He's not a terrible boss, but he's also like not, I don't know. You have to play against him like kind of a certain way, and that certain way is like not super interesting either. So I would say he's like just okay. Okay, Krauser in Classic RE4, he's an A tier enemy. I don't know. He's probably better. He's probably better than Nemesis at least. But yeah, he is super precise. You have to, if you want to set up the knife tech on him, which you've probably seen people do, if you want to set up the knife tech on him, it's like you need to be like right at the right place at the right time. And doing it even against him is super dangerous because of how QTE priority works in RE4 Classic. Because whenever an enemy tries to do a QTE, it will interrupt your ability to do other things that use those buttons. Like that'll get locked out. Which, funny enough, that bug still exists in RE4 Remake. If you equip the shield grapple charm on Ada, while that's on the screen, you can't take other QTEs. If you shoot a guy in the face and you try to kick him, but Ada can see a grabbable shield, she'll prioritize that, and you won't be able to kick the guy. Real stupid. Who is this? Is that Sadler? I think that is Sadler. Okay. Classic Sadler, RE4 Classic Sadler, triple S tier. He is, most people would say he's like too easy, and you can make him easy, but he's fairly sophisticated. He's a great gimmick. His gimmick relies on you like kind of controlling his movement around the room. You also have to keep track of every time that he gets a chance to use like a QTE that doesn't come with a ton of warning, which is when he throws girders at you. Like he's got a lot of like very exploitable animations too. Like if you stand far away from him, he'll do this charge move, which once he started it, it's really hard to stop him. But when he's winding up the charge, he always exposes his main eyeball. And so whether you've hit his side eyeballs or not, you can get a free knockdown out of hitting him in his face eyeball, like for free. So there is like a very comfortable way even to loop him with low firepower that doesn't require you do anything fancy with his other eyeballs. He's a very good enemy, especially for the time. Oh, we've arrived. So we're at Magini. Magini are kind of a little bit worse than Ganado. Some of the stuff they do is kind of cheap, and their attack range, Magini actually kind of remind me of Lycans in a lot of way, because Magini have, oh fuck no, what if they're like Lycans? No, RE5 remake is gonna suck dick. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Fuck, dude. I hope not. That would be fucking terrible. But yeah, some of their behaviors are slightly Lycan-esque, but they don't do stuff like Lycans do, where they like sprint across the room at you. They're mostly fair, and they're also very easy to stun, like Ganado. So it's like they're pretty reasonable to fight. I think these guys are called like Adula or something. They're like the dogs of RE5. RE5, broadly speaking, mostly is just good enemies. I'm gonna put him like kind of in the middle of C tier. He's gonna go with the other animals, because yeah, he is they're okay before they've transformed, but once they transform, they get like super resistant to stun, and they're kind of annoying. This Chainsaw Man is actually a little bit closer. He's a little bit closer to the version of Salvador that we have in RE4 Remake, but he's not that good. He's honestly like only slightly better than this guy, so I'm gonna put him at the bottom of B tier. He goes, yeah, he's like with Yawn. That sounds right. All right, I'm not gonna judge the Magini's. Actually, wait, no, I am gonna judge Village Magini, or sorry, what are these guys called? They're like Tribal Magini or something. I forget what their actual name is, but the village or the Magini that you find in the marshlands, they have some of the most annoying moves in the game, because they have like spears, and they have like this really weird jumping attack that they do. It's just obnoxious to deal with. So I'm gonna put them in, well, I don't know. There is still counterplay for it. It's just not very good. I'm gonna put them in B for bad. They're not terrible. They don't belong down here with these guys, but they're not very good either. They're like a worse iteration of Magini for no good reason. Oh, wait a minute. Here's RE5 Lickers. Oh, good. So, yeah, all right. And then this one, yeah, so this is RE2 Remake Lickers, which are bad. And RE5 Lickers, which are also bad. Okay. Oh, Giant Magini. Giant Magini are actually kind of a joy to fight sometimes. There's a specific encounter in RE5 where you have to fight two at once. And that encounter is actually very interesting when you have two people. Because you can sort of juggle, not the aggro, but you can juggle like setting up on them so that they just stay completely stunned as long as you and your partner are executing correctly. So I would say they are probably, oh, where'd he go? B tier enemies. I wouldn't say they're like quite the top of B tier, but they're very good. They're B for big boys because they're super tall. I think that's an Island Magini. Island Magini have guns. B for bad. All right. What am I looking at? Can anyone identify this? Okay, here's... Dude, I don't even know what I'm looking at. Resident Evil 5 enemies are a fucking mess, dude. They're so ugly. What is this? Oh, no, that's what do you call it? Not Plague Crawler. RE5's version of Plague Crawler. The Reaper, yeah, thank you. These guys are pretty good. I thought it was a boss. Why is he here and then the boss is over here? That's really weird. Anyway, Reapers are pretty cool. Reapers have like some interesting counterplay, but I feel like a big flaw to Reapers is the reticle system in RE5 and the laser are both a little bit dishonest. They both don't land exactly where they say they will. So even though there's like a really cool like counterattack to the heart system that they have, it usually ends up B for bad. I'm gonna put them. Well, that move also instantly kills you if it fails, so I'm gonna B for bad. What am I looking at here? Is this? This isn't Irving. This isn't Irving. That's the bat. Okay, the bat in RE5 is very good. He's an A-tier enemy. He's got like some pretty cool moves that he can do. He's got like a really annoying move where he puts like web on you and it slows you. But all of his moves have like fairly, you can predict what he's gonna do reasonably well. He's not like super hard to deal with. Most of the time, it's like not that hard to outplay him. What time is it? Okay, we're getting there. I don't know what this is. It looks like it could be like a not a Cephalos. What are the other ones called? I don't know what this fucking is. I can't really tell what this is. Oh no, this is Ouroboros 1. The first Ouroboros you fight and the second one later are both kind of like scripted fights. And the first one is decent because it's more of like a spacing and timing puzzle. But the second one is like kind of annoying. So I think it's actually just going to go at the top of C tier because they're not awful, but one fight is like way better than the other one, and the other one kind of drags it down. Ooh, D tier. The El Gigante in the remake is a literal turret sequence, and he is kind of dog shit. Because he gets in the way where sometimes you can't disrupt other enemies like that appear while he's doing something. Or like he'll do a move that you have to react to the QTE, and so it's like you get hit by an archer off screen during your QTE or during the recovery from it. So he's kind of unfair. Dude, these pictures are fucking terrible. Like, how are you supposed to tell what these are? What am I even looking at? Gamers, what do your elf eyes see? What the fuck are these? What's this guy? I think... You think this is the elevator crab? I thought this was the elevator crab. So, okay, elevator crab kind of runs into some RE6 style problems where it's like he just does some camera bullshit. It's really annoying. Like he'll do a move and it'll switch the camera transition to show you he's doing a move. And then when you switch back, sometimes you'll get bullied. Which one is Excella? This one I think is Excella. But this one I think is elevator crab. So here, we're going to assume... Oh, this is Irving. This is him in the mouth. Okay. So Irving... He's going to go here with like the fish bosses and shit. Irving isn't that bad, but Irving is like... He can be kind of cheap. Because his tentacle move is like... a bit of a dirty cheater. And his QTEs can also be a bit of a dirty cheater. Similarly, I'm going to put this guy at the bottom of B tier. The elevator crab is like... He has neat counterplay. It seems like X11 or something. He has neat counterplay, but he also just has some flaws that I think really get in the way of his fight being good. So here's Excella. Excella, same problem. She's like D tier. I'll put her at the top of D tier because it's a little bit interesting, but she also is just like, hey, let me take control of the camera. Hey, enjoy your free hit when you come out of it, and just a dude is standing on you. This one... I think this is actually Ouroboros 2. So hold on. Where's our other one? So Ouroboros 1 is kind of like, he's like high B tier. And then Ouroboros 2 is like high D. He's like Excella tier. He's also just kind of like ruined by a bit of randomness. I think one of them is the goopy guy. I think that one is, what do you call it? I think this is supposed to be Ouroboros 2. I'm not sure though. It's like impossible to tell. All the RE5 enemies, or all of RE5's bosses, are just like tentacle monsters, so they look kind of the same anyway. Okay, Wesker. when you fight him, when he looks like this, when he's like also a tentacle monster, he's actually a pretty good enemy, and he has like a fun sort of like mini game gimmick to his final fight. So I would put him like top of B, but he's also kind of shitty because, like, I don't know, for one, he's way too healthy, and he sort of uses the thing that classic El Gigante uses, which is like an armor system, where it's like you have to bully him out enough to expose his weak spot, and then he's okay. Hey, Revelations enemies. Okay, so I actually know some of these guys now. I know all of them. We should finish Revelations 1. I really need to get around to that. Okay, so, oh my god, there's so many left still. So these guys are very good enemies, except for one move, and that's Sucker Punch. If you get close to them and you try to bait one of their normal moves, they can just decide to do Sucker Punch, and there's like almost no time to dodge it. Fun fact, got a warning in my video from YouTube for violating guidelines. It was a highlight reel for my game Marvel Rivals. Were you playing as a character who has like their butt showing or something? Because I suspect Marvel Rivals is delving in a lot of that these days. How are you doing, onions? That said, these guys are mostly good. They're kind of like, they're like middle of B tier. They're not terrible. It's playing in Venom. There it is, dude. Venom's got a big butt. That's probably the problem. I can't tell exactly what this is. This, I know what this fucker is. This is a tricorn. Tricorns are like mostly good. They're probably like low B tier. Because they're actually putting them next to Reapers is really appropriate. Because their like ranged move is the fucking weirdest hitbox on the planet, and you can usually get the dodge to work, but not 100% of the time. Sometimes like it won't scan it correctly, and you'll just get hit. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be the captain or whatever, and the captain, he's a weird one too. I don't think he's like amazing, but he's probably like high B tier because he's not necessarily a gimmick, but like he subverts expectations. You need to be close to him to bait like his dangerous move, and as long as you don't get grabbed by the dangerous move, it's like fairly easy to avoid, as you know what it looks like. It's like you can kind of loop that dangerous move until he dies. Oh, I think this, okay, I know what these are. They're kind of like in the zombies tier, where it's like these dudes, I could take them or leave them. You know what I mean? They're like not super interesting. They're like the primary enemy that isn't what do you call it? I don't remember what they're called, but the primary enemy that does Sucker Punch. They're like the foil to those guys. Is this supposed to be the monsters on the beach? If it is, they're pretty uninteresting. They're gonna go with the animals. Actually, they're perfectly suited for right here. Oh, fish. I do remember fish. Okay, hold on. Is that? It is. Okay, so from here to here. No, this is Rachel. Rachel's a B tier enemy. The majority of enemies that Capcom have produced are B tier enemies. A lot of them are like just okay. Some of them are very good, but a lot of them kind of stink. I'm gonna put these guys down here because I don't know most of them. Like, I haven't finished Rev 1, so I don't know who these are. Okay, this I know. This is RE6 zombies, which RE6 zombies, pretty good. They go in the A tier. RE6 zombies, because RE6 has the counterattack system, RE6 zombies are like pretty decent, and setting them up so that you can do a coup de grace on them is really easy and pretty satisfying because they have like a scripted counterattack they'll do if you hit them, and it's really easy to hit them and then stun them a little bit and then do the counterattack, and you'll just get like a coup de grace kill on them, which is really good for mercenaries and just looks cool. Okay, Bloodshot is kind of cheap in RE5. I don't know. That's like a tough one, actually. Because Bloodshot have like a really cool like counterattack animation where if you counter them, it's like an instant kill. You'll grab them out of the air and stomp their heart. But if you don't counter it, it does a lot of damage, and if you aren't far away, they're not keen to use that move, so it's not very easy to get an easy free counterattack on them. So they're like pretty interesting. I think it's kind of annoying that they can show up in droves. Like the fact that they sometimes show up in packs probably warrants like a slightly lower place on the list, but Blood, I don't know, they're okay. Like they're like pretty decent for like an early elite enemy. And they have decent counterplay, so I give them marks for that. Is this a screamer? This is a screamer. Screamers are annoying. D tier. Screamers have like an enormous range where when they yell, it'll hit you. And you're supposed to just like know about them and deal with them kind of ahead of time. But doing that is not always, well, it can't, I won't say not always right, but it's often unreliable. They can sometimes just decide to do it ahead of time, and it's really cheap. It feels really bad to play against. These guys, bless them, have kind of a mean nickname for their character. These are just giant fat zombies, and they're called Whoppers. Whopper is like a pretty deadly elite zombie, and their counterplay is like very basic. It's a little bit like this guy, actually, where it's like, oh, if they run up on you, you need to be ready to counterattack, or they're just going to get a big damage hit on you. But all of their moves are like very predictable, and they're really slow. So they're actually very decent. I would say they go up here with regular zombies in the A tier. Oh, this motherfucker. So this is a really tricky one, because if you fight him in any context except for Leon's campaign, he's actually a very good enemy. Like if you fight him in the Mercenaries, he's pretty good. But when you fight this guy in Leon's campaign, the way he works is if he gets hit, he'll spray like poison out of him. And they put him in a room with you and like 12 NPCs who will just randomly fucking decide to shoot him. So it's like he's really awfully utilized in RE6 the way they've used him, but he's not actually a bad enemy, and he has like pretty decent counterplay. That said, the way he's used in vanilla RE6 is pretty fucking bad. So I'm going to put him at the bottom of C tier. Juavo are kind of the same as Magini in a lot of ways, but they're a little bit different. Like they're like weird. They're slower, and the rules for when they transform are very different. So in RE4 and in RE5, it's like there are certain areas where a specific enemy will transform when you kill them, or somebody in a group of enemies, which one you don't know, will transform if you kill them. However, with Juavo, they're not like, oh, if you kill me, I transform. They're like, if you attack a certain part of my body, depending on where you are in the campaign, they'll transform. And in some cases, it's bad to let them transform. And in other ones, it's actually kind of a good thing. The progression of going from like everyone turns into just a type of Plaga versus enemies will transform into different types of transformations throughout the game, I think is a very logical progression to how transformations have worked in 4 and 5. Because 4 basically was just like, we've got 3. 5 was basically just like, we've got a few. And then 6 goes even further and creates a lot of unique counterplay with the counterattack system, specifically for when certain Juavo transform. And a lot of them are pretty easy. So it's like in certain circumstances, it is a good idea to let them transform. That said, Juavo are S tier. Oh, this is that little fucking shitty spine guy. D tier. He's mostly fine, but he has one of the most annoying behaviors, which is while he is maneuvering around a room, he can bump into you and knock you down. And it's fucking so stupid annoying. I hate it. Tripping mechanics in video games should not exist. Unless it's like Death Stranding or something and the game is already bad. So, all right, what is this? Monkey? Monkey? Oh, this is the bee lady. Bee lady has kind of cool counterplay, but if you do the counterplay, it's like you kind of don't even do the fight. Like there is no fight to have. So C tier. Okay, there's the invisible snake. Oh, this is the gorillas. What are they called? I can't remember right now. These guys are they're called like Nepali or something. They're really good enemies. They have like they work kind of like Pinky in classic Doom, not classic Doom, modern Doom, where it's like the objective is to try and get behind them because that's where their weak spot is on their back. And so and it's not like Gyarados, but it's like, oh, hit this tiny spot. Their whole back is their weak spot. So yeah, these guys are pretty good. I would say they're probably like an A tier enemy. They can be a little cheap when they do their little rampage move, but they're mostly pretty good. God, so I can't tell what some of these are, dude. It's like the fucking worst pictures they could have gotten. I don't know. It's F tier. Okay, Island Joavo or like late game Joavo, they have some of the coolest transformations. So I'm just gonna put them straight up here with these other Joavo. I would say they're. Oh, you know what? No, they both get brought down. I forgot they have guns. Both types of these Joavo have guns. These guys are technically worse. Actually, they go here. These guys are technically worse because the Island Joavo have automatic weapons, and automatic weapon Joavo work a little bit like Siphon Filter. If you've never played Siphon Filter, the way damage works in Siphon Filter is like you're out in the open, right? And while you're out in the open, you're accruing danger meter. If your danger meter gets full, you get hit. And that's literally kind of how they work, is if they can see you for long enough, you are going to get hit. You're going to get hit scanned by them. So in that way, it's a little bit like Classic Doom as well. But, oh, these motherfuckers. Rasker Punji. These guys have a super weird name and an even weirder way of being dealt with. They're kind of like Leechman in the regard that, like, you need to know what you're going to do ahead of time to deal with them. But they're also, like, kind of annoying. I don't know. They're like super sophisticated for how little you see them in the game. That said, they're not terrible. I would say they're probably like middle B tier. They've got interesting counterplay, but it's not like, I don't know. I think they're like kind of a worse version of Ivy in a weird way. Except not only are they super dangerous, but their shitty little hand can follow you around, and then it's dangerous. Although you can actually abuse them not having their hand to your advantage in some ways. That said, here, let's move to the next one. Oh, this is the super giant guy from Chris's campaign. He's fine. He's like a gimmick boss. He's not super interesting, but he's not unfair or anything either. So he's like up here with like Delago and the other gimmick bosses. Shark, similarly, also kind of a gimmick boss. He goes with the fish. Who is this? I can't tell what I'm looking at. Oh, yes, I can. This is the porno boss. She's gonna go. She's not actually like a terrible boss, so I'm not gonna put her in like the D tier or anything. But she's really awkward because one of her moves is she like mounts the main character and like rubs herself. It's the weird. It's like. This scene was made to like get teenage boys in trouble so that their parents would walk in and be like, oh, what game you playing? And it's like, oh, porn. That's what. So yeah, she's going to go B for boobs. She's not a terrible enemy, but she's like a fucking weird enemy. Capcom was definitely testing the waters with RE5 when they put Jill in the cat suit. And then they were like, all right, what if we have a porno boss in RE6? And they're like, all right, we'll dial it down. RE7 time. Okay, Snake Boss in RE5, S tier. He's a really, really good enemy. He actually is one of the unique cases where you get to take advantage of using the dodge system in a circumstance that, like, it's the best thing you could do. Because the dodge system in RE5 doesn't give you iframes. It just gives you, like, superior kind of, like, positional movement. And using it against him in particular for a lot of his attacks where like the camera perspective is forced for you and it's your turn really helps you like sort of normalize what your reaction is going to be. So it's like the moment you see he's targeting you and it's your turn, just roll out of the way. He's like a really great action camera boss and probably one of the few ones in RE6. I can't tell what I'm looking at here. Is it like Ustanok? No, this is Ustanok. The fuck am I looking at? I can't tell what this is. This looks like just an infected Joavo or like a transformed Joavo. Which I guess if that's what we're doing, I would give most transformed Joavo A tier preferential treatment because they're pretty good. Whenever Joavo are transformed in particular, they don't have weapons or they don't have guns. Well, no, that's not true, actually. The crickets can. Okay, yeah, they're probably fine here. All right, I can't tell what this is either, so I'm going to put him up. Ustanok, pretty good enemy. Ustanok is a little bit cheap, but he's mostly pretty fair. And I think a lot of his problems are just RE6 problems, like stuff with the camera or stuff with QTEs not registering in time. So I would say he's like top of B tier. Yo, what's up, Baker? How are you doing, dude? Man, you got here at a really good time. We're almost to RE7. In fact, I think we are there because I'm pretty sure these are all Revelations 2 enemies. Yeah, I'm almost positive they are. Okay, so I'm just gonna remove these guys. Hold on, actually, can I make another one? Can you add one? I'm pretty sure you can. I add a row after? Okay. Perfect, okay. Oh, delete row. Beautiful. Okay. Oh, wait, no, that's wrong. Hold on. So that's F. No, hold on. So you're red. You can be like gray, because there's, I don't know who these guys are. Okay. The majority of these guys go down here, because I don't know who a lot of these enemies are. So there's only a handful of actual F tier enemies, and then a lot of the other ones go down here just because I don't know who the fuck this is. Similarly, these guys get to go down here because I've not played Revelations 2. I have no clue who these enemies are. Okay, Molded. Is this VOD going to be highlighted? I'm going to publish this whole shit to YouTube, Baker. So if you want to see when it gets uploaded, I'll probably do it later this evening if you want to watch it from the beginning. Because I did a tier list like a year ago, and I don't know. I didn't, what do you call it? I didn't have a lot of accurate opinions on some stuff. Like my opinion of some of this stuff has changed, and I've actually like taken care to like note which times something was like better now than it was. So yeah, you'll be able to watch it later. All right, so Molded are easy S tier enemies. The only behavior that Molded have that's like not very good is sprint counter. In vanilla or in the main campaign for RE7, if you run next to a Molded, they can just like instantly grab you or instantly bite you. And it's kind of cheap, and I think Capcom figured out that it's kind of cheap because later when they released the extra DLC like End of Zoe and all the other stuff, it was removed. So certain DLCs take it out of the game completely where you don't have to worry about it. Some you still do, like Not a Hero, they can still do it, but for the most part, they're kind of structured now where it's like you don't have to worry about it as much. Like in End of Zoe, you don't have to worry about it. Ooh, fat Molded. Gonna have to put them at like the bottom of it. They actually kind of belong by this guy for a similar reason, which is that they have a couple of attacks that are just kind of bullshit. Like one thing a fat Molded can do that's very cheap is if you're mid-range from them, they can start like scratching themselves and it just produces goop everywhere. And it's in like a massive cone in front of them that you're likely to be hit by it. Not only that, but it ruins more than just damageless runs because it hits you multiple times usually. The goopy spit moves in RE7 and 8 are both trash. They're both usually very bad. Flies. This is going to surprise you. And I actually didn't think about this, but this is another example of a very good enemy. S tier. The flies in Marguerite Baker's house in RE7 have really good counterplay. And this is a bigger more important feature, they have really great team attack AI. So if two of them are focused on you, they will take turns attacking you, and the other one will hang back until the first one's turn is over. And when they attack you, they attack the elevation that you're at. So what you want to do is wait for them to approach you, duck, let them finish their attack, which is slow, and the recovery for it is even slower, and then you stand back up and hit them, and that's it. They die in one knife swipe. So they're really, really good enemies, and if you're scared of doing that, it's like you're also very often in a position where you can remove them with the knife even before it becomes their turn and they get to do anything. So they're good puzzle enemies, they're good interactive enemies, and they're good crowd enemies. A freaking threefer, baby. The good stuff. They're also the one shining example in all of Capcom's history of a fair and reasonable flying enemy. I think this is like a boss room fat molded. I can't tell. This is the worst because molded all kind of look the same. Is this Jack? It might be. No, this is DLC Jack. This is Final Evelyn. That's Mia. This is a bladed molded, which bladed molded pretty much on the same tier as regular molded. They can be slightly cheap because they have like this DLC move that sends them really far forward. Actually, I'll put them a little lower, but they're not bad enemies. They're very good. I think this is like a. Oh no, this is Mama molded. So then who is this? I can't fucking tell. But this is Mama molded. Mama molded, if this is who I think it is a pretty good boss. Mama molded spawns a bunch of these little annoying shits on Not a Hero. But those little annoying shits are actually really great enemies. They work a lot like G Mutant Babies in RE2 Remake, where it's like you have so much time to react to them. Like they give you a lot of warning that they're going to attack you, and then you just need to get out of the way from where you are standing right now, and they'll land on the floor uselessly next to you. The only difference between them and RE2 Remake Mutant Babies is they don't die when they hit the ground. But yeah, this one is probably, I would say, top of A tier, maybe not S. Pretty good. I'm going to assume that this is just another version of Fat Molded, or maybe this is like the Fumer, which Fumers in Not a Hero are also like, they're okay. You know, you kind of just avoid them. They're not very interesting. I would say they probably go like at the bottom of B tier, if that's what I think it is. So it's a Fumer. Okay, Mia is kind of an awful enemy. She's pretty cheap. When you fight her with the chainsaw, you can sort of you just get away from her, and you can sort of outmaneuver her a little bit, but she's more of like a cinematic style like gimmick boss, and she's kind of cheap. Like you sort of have to like just fucking trade with her a lot of the time, and so it doesn't feel very good to fight her. I would say she's probably like low C tier with the other gimmick bosses, because at least she's scary and like her presentation is good and everything. Ooh, this is tough. So Jack Baker, if I were to rate the whole package, is a triple S enemy. He is fun to interact with. He's funny. He uses a lot of humor to like sort of de-stress some of the situations, but he's also terrifying, and like he's, especially if you fight him on Madhouse, dude, he's a real threat. He's way faster than you. He will always catch up to you no matter what. He's really deadly, and he has like a lot of, he's another version of like a primary stalker that has like a lot of different outcomes and like a lot of different forms. Like Guest House Jack is different from Garage Jack, which is different from Garage Phase 2 Jack, where he has the chainsaw, which is different from Mutated Jack. He has like a lot of versatility, and he's generally a pretty fun and well-designed enemy. Marguerite Baker, kind of the same. Human form Marguerite is a little bit dog shit. She can kind of be a dirty cheater, but when you fight her actual spider form, she's like pretty good. The only thing that really betrays her is bad hitboxes in RE7, which at times is one of the things that really disrupts her gameplay the most. So I would say she's probably like top B tier. She's probably like a Wesker tier boss. Maybe she's probably bottom of A, because you can knife her really comfortably too. And they knew that she was a well-designed boss because she's the final boss of Ethan Must Die. He's pretty much the nemesis. Yeah, he is. He's pretty much the nemesis of RE7. Okay, so Evelyn is a final boss. F. She's pretty bad. She's not hard. Like, the fight ends immediately. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna say C. She's a C tier boss. Because I was about to let my influence, or sorry, my opinion of this be influenced by the team hit list rules, where they say that getting hit by the tentacle during the transition is like an avoidable hit, but that's really stupid because you have to fight her such a specific way to orchestrate that outcome. And it more or less says, I hope you weren't planning on doing any kind of challenge run, because even if nobody's going out of their way to do it, it still denies you that opportunity by saying, oh, you have to play it this way. If you fight her normally, she's a super easy boss and she's over right away. She's a very common, like, final boss. Lucas, A tier. He's very high A tier. Lucas is actually like a pretty cool boss. He has like a really dangerous move that he can do in phase 1, and he's very keen to do in phase 3. Like, he actually replaces one of his other moves with this move, and it's like an impale that he does, but if you parry it and not a hero, you actually expose his heart and put him in stun for like a really long time. So he's got like really valid counterplay to avoid what he does. You get lots of grenades, so there's plenty of situations where if he corners you, you can let yourself out for free. Lucas is an excellent boss and not a hero. This is Jack. Jack is an End of Zoe. He can kind of be a dirty cheater. He's like bottom of B tier. He can be a dirty cheater sort of in the same way that Fat Molded can. But when he does it, sometimes it's kind of worse. He's not a terrible enemy. He has different behaviors depending on if you fight him on Joe Must Die or on normal. Like, his second fight is really bad on normal. Weirdly, it's even worse than Madhouse, but he's overall like pretty legitimate. He's only a little bit cheap. You kind of wish Ethan and Lucas had a fight. Oh, dude, imagine. Lycans, F. Lycans are fucking awful. That's what this is bought for, by the way. Fucking awful. Lycans, if you're close to them, as long as they don't have a melee weapon, they're like super easy to juggle. But the major problem is that Lycans often are never alone. They're always in like a group. And in particular, like examples like the Stronghold, there's giant packs of them. And I understand that their mindset with the Stronghold was like, oh, this is their lair, so there should be a lot of them. But which fucking dumb shit boo-boo headed... All right, sorry. I think them as a group is really bad because of one specific move. They have a move, I just call it Super Sprint, because basically what they'll do is, whether you can see them or not, if you are facing their general direction, they can activate Super Sprint, and Super Sprint can be chained with every other move that they have in their arsenal. The only thing that they can't chain it out of is grabbing their weapon. If they get it close to you and they grab their weapon, now it's shut off. But if they do Super Sprint and they run up to you and they side dash, or they jump backwards, or they crawl up something, or like literally fucking anything, they can just finish Super Sprint right on top of you, and you will have no time to react to it. And the only way to stop it is you have to hit them with the shotgun, or you need to already know it's happening and have position to get behind something. It is the cheapest, most dog shit doo-doo ass move of any RE engine game. Or any RE engine enemy. What's that? Sorry, just talking about it is actually making me physically ill. That's how fucking bad they are. Meanwhile, big boy Lycans, big thick boy Lycans, pretty decent. They're actually not bad. They're a little bit cheap sometimes. I would say they're probably like zombie tier. It's at least 5 shots of it. The key, Baker, the key is you need to watch them and then wait for them to dash and then shoot them. Because they can't dash out of dash, but they'll dash the moment you try to shoot them. Because they're dirty cheaters. Yeah, I would say he gets pretty decent. You know what I mean? There's, I don't know. The armored version of them is like very slow and very predictable, but the drawback to them is if you play on the highest difficulty, their helmet is basically indestructible, so you are more or less forced to waste shots shooting them in the body. It's kind of bad. Varkalok. Okay, so Varkalok, this is going to seem like a weird one. S tier. Varkalok have a really surprising counterplay where if you stand right next to them and guard, they do like a one-handed swipe attack, and if you guard it, it doesn't hurt you. So you can actually stand directly in a Varkalok's face and hit them over and over until they die. Every 2 hits, depending on how fast you do it, if you wait a while, 1 hit will sometimes trigger it. But if you just block and then do 2 knife swipes, the very next thing you do, or the very next moment, they'll attack again. So you can do block // guard cancel / block, and you can just keep doing that until they die. Also, if you're far away from them and they notice you, they have this running leap attack, but when they do it, if you hit them with the shotgun while they're in midair, it puts them in like a really heavy stun where they fall down. It's kind of like if you shoot a dog out of the air in RE2 Classic or RE2 Remake. It stuns him for a super long time. So he actually has valid counterplay from multiple distances. Moraweka, similar deal. Morawekas are very good. If Lycans are like Ganado, Moraweka are like zombies. And they're really slow. In Village of Shadows, it takes away the ability to stun them with 1 shotgun shot. You have to use 2. But that's actually not such a bad thing, because it really doesn't disrupt the gameplay that much. Like, it's annoying when it's annoying, but it's in like 2 rooms where it's a really big pain in the ass that you can't knock them over like instantly. It's honestly more of a problem with certain other enemies, but Moros later in the game, they kind of remedy this by giving you an opportunity to stun them for free once when they've got the visors in the factory. All right. Oh, flying enemy, F. All right, these guys are flying enemies. They're fucking dog shit awful. Who is this? I can't tell who this. Hold on, can I make this big? Kind of. Just makes the ad bigger. Although this admittedly is a little bit better. Oh, I know who this is. This is the knockoff version of Uriash. Uriash Drak or whatever they're called. He's pretty much Uriash, but better. So I would say these guys are like A tier. They're like, yeah, they're okay. They're pretty good. They're literally Uriash with like a slightly gentler moveset, and they don't. Well, actually, that's not true. The Beneviento House one does summon backup, which is kind of dog shit. But oh, here we go. Hold on. So these guys need to go down here too, because they're dead aim enemies. Where every single Soldat, I'm telling you, dude, S for Soldat, they're all good. Every single Soldat model is good. The Panzer, the Zwei, the Jet, they're all awesome. They are all basically just like a different version of Garrador. These guys were probably one of the best like new unique ideas that Capcom has had in years. They're scary, they're interesting, they're hard hitting, they're great enemies. They're probably the best thing about the factory. Every single one of these guys is a fucking joy to fight, dude. They're all so fun. Is this Sturm? This is Sturm. S for Sturm. Sturm is also really fun. Sturm can be a little bit cheater, like when he gets to phase 3 and he starts like running randomly around the room, because at that point his behavior really is random. You have to guess where he's going to go, and so you kind of just need to space properly and get ready to move. But he's overall very good. Hammer Uriash, D for dog shit. He's like easy enough to damage race and beat that way, but he's also D for dirty cheater a little bit, because he constantly shakes the camera, and he can, in very rare circumstances, he can cheat where he either A, doesn't show up at all, or B, he will be stunned during his summoning backup animation and they'll still show up. Granted, the Lycans that show up in his boss room have pretty low HP. On Village of Shadows, it's still enough where you can't just like shoot him with the handgun once. You got to kill all of them still. So this one, I had a very different opinion of last time we played, and this may shock you. But this time, I think I would put the sisters in the A tier. I've had a lot of time to practice Bella in particular and just get a better understanding of how she works. And even though there are some flaws with her in third person that are super noticeable, they're also very easy to avoid. And in first person, she has a lot in common with Nemesis. I think she's kind of like she's like if Nemesis was in phase 2 at the start of the fight. because she has like sort of a running hit move that there is counterplay for, but you need to like get her in the right spot so that when it's time for her to do it, you can avoid it easily. So she is a very, very like spacing dependent style of puzzle. And Cassandra and Daniela are both kind of just like throwaway enemies. Cassandra can actually be kind of a dirty cheater as well, because the barrels in her room will sometimes, you guessed it, affect her pathing. Similarly, that can happen with Bella, but it's a little more noticeable with Cassandra. Actually, it's pretty noticeable with both, if I'm honest, but that's probably the worst thing about them. Dimitrescu as a stalker is like pretty uninteresting and you never really need to interact with her. Dimitrescu is an intro boss, A tier. She's very good. She also shakes the camera a lot and does a lot of shit with bugs, which I'm not crazy about, but she is overall pretty interesting. All right, baby. Baby's a gimmick, C tier. Beneviento is literally not even a boss fight, C tier. Moreau is bottom of B tier because Moreau is mostly good. He has like a couple of moves that are really cheap. Like once he's in phase 2, he can start using this move where he like lunges at you, and this lunge move can hit you in some really, really unfair ways. Like he can like bump into the wall near the end of his lunge and hit you around a corner. It's really dog shit. But he also has some really interesting counterplays as well. Like there's stuff you can do to stop him from hitting you that's really crazy. Like for example, a move you've probably seen him do if you've played Village is he does like a swipe with his head. But something you might not know is during that swipe, the only time his body is vulnerable, like his human body, is when he's in the wind up for the swipe. So if you turn to face him with the shotgun and you shoot him the moment he's about to do it, it actually knocks his body up in the air for a moment, like it pushes him backwards, and it pushes the hitbox back with it. So you can actually just back up, let him start the move, hit him, it'll make him miss, and then you can back up and set it up again. You can also get him stuck, which makes him pretty simple. But yeah, Moreau is, he's okay on the other modes, but on Village of Shadows, he is the master of overstaying his welcome. He is way too much fucking help. Oh, this is Sturm. Wait, so then who is this? Oh, that's Panzer Jet, I think. Okay. Well, good. Hold on. So if this is Panzer Jet, Sturm goes here. Sturm is a very good enemy. He's also, it's funny, someone mentioned this in Snooky's chat earlier. He's a reference to another monster in a movie called Frankenstein's Army called Propellerhead, which a lot of stuff in these games are references to other stuff. I can't tell what I'm looking at. This looks to be Heisenberg, and this is Miranda. What is this? Oh, this is Yuri Ostrager. Okay. So Heisenberg, triple S enemy. Great spectacle, great presentation, fun gameplay. You get to fight him in a fucking tank. He also is like very deceptive in that you would think you have to avoid him using the cannon because the game gives you the cannon and they're like, you better not let him get close, but you can avoid everything he does with movement. He's like a fantastic boss. So yeah, it's very surprising to hear people complain about him, even though that part of it's not very intuitive. Because Capcom likes to do this. They'll give you something and they'll be like, hey, by the way, don't let him do X. And you're like, oh, fuck, okay. They're like, here's your tool, so you won't let him do that. And you're like, all right, I got it, so I have to do this. But it's like, you don't actually need it. It's just there so you don't have to learn it. Which, probably smart, but still. Okay, Yuri Ostrager, he's like A tier. He's better than the other version, like Hammer Uriash. Like his mace is like a slightly more fair hitbox, but he can also kind of be a dirty cheater. He's pretty much a Decepticon. He can also be a dirty cheater because he has one specific move, which he alerts you to the fact that he's doing it like really ahead of time. You have so much time to position and be ready for when he's going to do it. But the big problem with it is it tracks you like a little bit too well, and the room that you're fighting him in is not big enough to avoid it every single time. So he can kind of trap you with it. And so depending on where he is in the room when he starts it, you might force you to use a flashbang just to knock him out of it. All right, and finally, Miranda, which most people may not agree with this, but Miranda, S tier boss. Miranda has some stuff she can do that's really cheap, but it's always kind of like not on a timer, but in a certain order. So it's like, oh, you're in the last phase of her fight and she just turned into a bird. It's like after 3 moves, you need to watch what she's going to do and stay far away enough so that you can avoid it. It's like you need to see if she turns into a human. You need to wait and see if she's going to do the spider leap move. All of her moves have some air of predictability about them. And some of her moves, even though they're a little bit cheap, especially in third person, feels like it's kind of mitigated if you have like the super speed thingy, which there's no reason not to have the super speed, the fish upgrade, basically, that makes you faster. But yeah, gamers, I think that's done it. We have officially ranked all of the enemies and all of the bosses. So yeah, I'm gonna upload this to YouTube later. So I appreciate you guys being here in person to watch it. You decide later, or if you didn't see the whole thing, or if you just want to watch it again for whatever reason, it is gonna go up on YouTube later. So say hi, YouTube, and we're gonna go ahead and switch over to something else.